Good morning, everyone. Here is your flipped video for complex sentences. You need to gather your supplies. Tape or glue, your dependent and independent clause sheet, your interactive notebook, scissors, pens, and perhaps your complex sentence notes or practice. I'll go through some of those with you today. So first, what you're going to do is open up your interactive notebook to the table of contents. You're going to write down, you should have simple sentence notes on page 9, compound sentence notes on 10, complex sentence notes go on page 11. And we'll turn to page 11 here and put 11 up in the corner, complex sentence notes, and then we'll do that. So hold on to that for a second. Alright, so first you're going to color your sheet, obviously. It's a bit bigger, see everything. So color it, and then you're going to cut it out. And when you cut it out, you have to be careful that you cut around the dark lines. All the way around the dark lines. So that looks like this. Okay? And when you're done with that, you're going to fold it. So you're going to flip it over, so you're looking at the other side, and I colored my other side too. And you're going to flip down the independent clause and fold it on the dotted line as best you can. Try and make it straight. And then you're going to flip up the dependent clause, and you're going to fold it on the dotted line. Okay, and then you're going to take your subordinating conjunction. You're going to open that dependent clause again, and you're going to fold that subordinating conjunction in on the line, so that when you fold it up, it disappears behind the dependent clause tab. Alright, so now we're ready to tape it in. And remember, you can stop the video at any time and replay it in case you need to. Alright, so we are going to flip this. Alright, I'm going to have this all done. So the first thing I want to do is tape this in. I want to leave a little bit at the top, just a couple of lines, because I need to put down the definition of a complex sentence. So I have this all pre-taped for me. You know, I like using scrapbook tape better than glue. I just think it works a little better. Because it's a big one, I do a lot of tape. So I'm going to take those all off on the back side. Okay, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to line it up as best I can so that it's nice and straight, and press it down so it's nice and flat. And I got a crease in it, but that's okay. It works. Alright, so now for the notes. And there's a PowerPoint with these notes too. Complex sentences contain an independent clause and at least one dependent clause. And I put the I over here for independent clause and the D for dependent clause. So on top of your independent clause tabs, you're going to write, they are like adults. They can go anywhere by themselves anytime they like. In the middle, where you have a little space, we're going to write the definition of clauses. These are groups of words that contain a subject and a verb. And then on the top of the dependent clause, they are like children. They can't go anywhere without an adult, which is the independent clause. Flipping up the independent clause, I have an example in the top tab. I will be late for school. That is an independent clause. Has a subject and a verb. Subject, will be late, verb, and it makes a complete sentence. The definition of an independent clause is underneath the tab. Okay. So again, an independent clause contains a subject and a verb, and it makes a complete statement or thought. So you should know that from simple sentences and compound sentences. Dependent clause, when you flip that one down, open, you have the definition of a dependent clause. A dependent clause contains a subject and a verb and a subordinating conjunction. It cannot stand alone because it does not make a complete statement or thought. And your example down here is if I miss the bus in the morning, which is the dependent clause portion. Subordinating conjunction is if, so I've circled it. And then I will be late for school, which is the independent clause I used up top. Subordinating conjunctions. So this is a big definition, but again, it's on my PowerPoint, so you can see it there a little bit better maybe. But underneath subordinating conjunction tab, you're going to write the definition of subordinating clause. Subordinating conjunction, this should say conjunction, begins a dependent clause. 1, it provides a transition between ideas which indicates time, place, or cause and effect. 2, it introduces the idea that is less important than the independent clause idea. And then I've written see list on opposite page. And again, the list of subordinating conjunctions is right in my PowerPoint as well, so you can copy them down. So on the left side, opposite of my complex sentence notes, I have written the list of subordinating conjunctions. Okay? And this will help you as you're doing your homework. So let's go down to the bottom underneath independent clause or dependent clauses. We have 2 formulas for complex sentences. The first formula is an ID, where independent clause comes first, dependent clause comes second. If the independent clause comes first, there is no punctuation needed between the clauses. So notice that there's no comma between here or semicolon. The second formula is a D, I, where the dependent clause comes first and then the independent clause follows. If the dependent clause comes first, then a comma separates it from the independent clause. And again, the dependent clause starts with your subordinating conjunctions over here. Just another list for you guys to learn. So let's take a look at the homework, which is complex sentence 1A. And let me get this a little bit closer this time so you can see it. And we'll do some together. So for number 1, what I want to do is the same thing we've always done. We're going to search and check. Get rid of our prepositional phrases, get rid of our infinitives. Then we're going to find the verbs and then the subjects. So first of all, I want to get rid of to join, which is an infinitive. And then I want to look for my verbs. Well, I notice I have will rake, which is a verb phrase, helping verb, main verb. And then I have want. And I ask myself, who wants? You do. So there's my subject. Label that verb. Who will rake? I will rake. So there's my subject. And I look along here and I see, unless you want to join me, that is the dependent clause. The subordinating conjunction is unless, and it can't stand by itself. It has to be joined to this main independent clause here. So this is a ID sentence. There's no comma between them, and the independent clause comes first, and then the dependent clause follows. Number 2, I see that I have really no prepositions. Packed up is a verb phrase, and I'll talk about that on Monday. And then I have went as a verb. Who went? The fans went. Who packed up? The band did. Notice I have a comma here. And then I have the subordinating conjunction after. So my dependent clause comes first. After the fans went home is my dependent clause. And then I have a comma separating it from the independent clause. The band packed up their instruments. So it is a D, I construction. Number 3, I have to pace, which is an infinitive, so I'll get rid of that. Will be is my verb phrase. I'm going to cross out the not. And then learns is my verb on the left side. Who learns? Jill does. That's my subject. Who will be healthy? She will be. So that's my subject on the right side. I have a comma here. And the subordinating conjunction is until. So again, my construction is dependent clause first, comma, independent clause. D, comma, I. One more. That car is perfect for me because I can afford its upkeep. For me is a prepositional phrase, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm looking for my verbs now. I have is a verb. Can afford is a verb phrase. Who can afford? I can. There's my subject. What is? The car is, so that's my subject there. And the subordinating conjunction is because. So I have an independent clause first, and then a dependent clause, no comma between them. Okay? And that's how you do the rest of the sheet. So front and back, remember. So let's do maybe one on the back to give you a guide. While snow was falling, the streets were silent. Were is a verb. Was falling is a verb phrase. What was falling? The snow was falling. What were silent? The streets were. And my subordinating conjunction is while. I have the dependent clause first, comma, independent clause. And that's it. So, happy search and checking and making your paper look beautiful just like this. We will check it on Monday and go from there. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Take care. Bye.